Welcome to the Chester Centurions Podcast, where we highlight local leaders driving positive change. Today's guest is Craig Jenkinson, head of Abbey Gate College, an independent co-educational school near Chester. With nearly 50 years of history, Craig shares the college's mission to nurture confident, well-rounded young people, blending academic excellence with creativity, sport and personal development, all in a historic setting dating back to the 1400s. In this episode, Craig discusses how education is evolving to meet the demands of a fast-paced, changing world, the core skills and values students need to thrive in modern business, the power of resilience, adaptability and purpose in shaping young minds and opportunities for local businesses to connect with future talent through placements and partnerships. This is an insightful look at how the next generation is being equipped to excel and what this means for business owners. Let's dive in. Craig, welcome to the Chester Centurion Podcast.
Thank you very much indeed, Alan. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Well, listen, before we get started today, I'd love to know a little bit more about Abbey Gate College and the great work you're doing there, and tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
Sure. We are Abbey Gate College. We're approaching half a century, so in a couple of years' time, we'll have been here 50 years. We were founded by parents back in the 1970s at a time when there was very much a wish for a third option. At that point, there was a boys' independent school, there was a girls' independent school, and there was a wish there to have something that was co-educational and that would just offer, again, further diversity and variety for parents and for their children. And a school that would also put very definite value around people's personal interests, their personal passions, the creative side of things, the sporting side of things, and give those an equal value. Because not everyone is wanting to go to school, and their sole aim is just an academic route forward. So it was very intentionally at that time looking at trying to establish a more holistic approach to what young people's experience of education would be like. And the college has just grown and grown. We're in this gorgeous building. They're in Satan Grange, which you can't see from the road. People just drive past it. They drive through Satan Village. We are literally barely 10 minutes out of Chester. So you just head down towards Huntingdon, and then you've got the Satan Village there. And it's a gorgeous part of the world. The buildings are like something that time has just not touched. Most of it, I mean, it is part of the Duke's estate that we're on. And the house that was here has got a wonderful history. Parts of it are grade 1 and grade 2 listed. The main door that we walk through every single morning, this is dating from the 1400s, before King Henry VIII came onto the throne. Fortunately, it has been preserved, it's been kept. The whole building, I mean, the history of it actually goes back to the 1000s. It's got very, very strong links with Chester Cathedral. Ripley, who was the designer and the architect, so he's currently buried in Chester Cathedral, but actually his the lupus that we have on our badge is actually linked with Ripley, and part of the stonework explicitly links with him as well. Then there was a reworking of the structure in the late 1880s, and it then became a Victorian manor house and was then with the Grosvenor family for about a century, before generations moved on, and then the opportunity was there for it to become a school, and it was then that was a very fortuitous moment then in the 1970s, and the college has then grown since then. So we're now full from 4 through to 18. We've got an infant and junior school just down the road in, again, an equally gorgeous village of Alford with lovely grounds around. And we are, as a school, it's just been a continual journey of development and growth, keep on developing new facilities, expanding what we're offering. And we've got a very, very clear sense of who we are, what we're doing. And even though the Chester educational landscape has evolved slightly from where it was in the 1970s, parents, I mean, we between the three schools of mainly King's, Queen's and Abbey Gate College, we've got a really good relationship, and we get on very well between ourselves. And each of us knows that we're serving the Chester area with a real sense of integrity and authenticity. You know, each of us, while we've got many things that we have in common, we've got very many things also which are very unique to us, and that gives parents and families a genuine choice. They have a real choice as to what is going to be the best fit for their child, and that matters. It matters to all three of us. You know, we're really committed to ensuring that actually what we are providing here is right for every single individual child who comes to us. We are not, and I think an important part of who we are, and it's just maybe to slightly counter any perceptions, we are not a luxury. Our parents, really across all three schools, they make significant sacrifices in order to send their children here. They're just wanting what they believe is right for their child. We've got a reasonable number of children with special educational needs as well, again across all three schools, but certainly we do here as well. And the part of Abbey Gate College is the setting that we have, the size of school that we have, because we're a medium-sized school. And the ethos that we have, which we've had right from the 1970s, is very much, it's a nurturing ethos. So we know every single child very, very personally. We know who they are, we know their strengths, we know their passions, we're looking out for them all the time. The relationships we have here are absolutely fantastic. In terms of it's a very, very different. People who visit us recognise it straight away that there's a tangible emotion of warmth and welcome to the school, because we are so committed to establishing a sort of an emotional safety, an emotional foundation for young people, especially in these really challenging times. It's important that they feel comfortable in themselves to be themselves, and then they will learn. You know, then they'll achieve the best that they actually can. So, in a nutshell, that's very much who we are and what we're about.
That's exceptional, Craig, and you know, what a beautiful building and what a beautiful story about where the college has come from and how it evolved. I've been really looking forward to this podcast because one of the common themes that I've found since started recording these is that getting the right team in a business is so important. It's the difference between an average company and an exceptional company is finding the right team. What skills and values are you focused on to prepare the students for the business world?
Good question. And it's something that we've given an awful lot of thought to. And part of my journey before joining Abbey Gate College has been, I've been fortunate to have a good range of experience, which includes international experience as well. In fact, that's where I was before things. We had to make significant changes when the whole pandemic happened. We were in the wrong place at the wrong time, as it turned out at that point then. But that mixture of experience of a range of schools in the UK, and then experiencing the international education scene as well, and that was one of the most prestigious schools in the world that I was at. A lot of the discussion that we were having, particularly around the new decade there internationally, was where is the world going and what does the world need? So there was an awful lot of focus. All of the international conferences there were very much aware of digital progress. They were talking then about everything that was happening with AI, and they were talking about the kinds of skills, the employability needs that the future would require, and really it was a wake up call as well. It was saying to us as heads, as educators, what are you doing, guys? You know, if you keep on holding on to whatever was happening 20, 30 years ago. If your curriculum looks the same, if the programs that you're doing are looking the same, you're going to do a massive, massive disservice to your young people, because they're simply not going to be equipped. This is the world that they are heading in is changing at an almost unthinkable pace. We know that pace of change is completely outstripping our own biological capability to evolve or work with it. We know that. This is one reason that we get this sense of we're not even, we're having to sprint just to try to keep up with things. So for our young people, this is the world they're coming into. Our generation, we've experienced a lot more change than, say, our and your parents' generations, but equally for our own children. I'm a parent as well. I'm a father. Their own life experience so far has been one of such rapid development and change. They've been learning new things at a pace far, far more than when I was their age, and then equally the previous generation. So a really important part of this is actually, as human beings, we've got to have that flexibility, that resilience, and that adaptability to cope, to accept the change. We can't be pushing back against that change all the time and being resistant to change. We've got to accept that change. We've got to know that is coming, work with it, roll with it, go with the flow of all that change, be open-minded to it. And that sense of inner strength and core, the only way that will work, there's an awful lot of talk about resilience. But resilience is not a thing in itself. You can have a lesson on the curriculum and say, right, guys, we're going to do resilience today. Great, take some notes, and then we're all done. You can't do that. Resilience it's the result of, if you've got everything else right, and fundamental to that is a self-worth, it's a self-awareness, it's a self-confidence, it's a comfort within who you are. So one of the biggest things that we work really hard on at Abbey Gate College, and it's something that, in many ways, it was a serendipitous appointment, because a lot of the sort of foundational values of Abbey Gate College, which had been there when they talked about the holistic and everything that they were aiming to do, as I then came back with my experience internationally, the synergy between the two was very, very evident. It just enabled us just to sort of evolve and reset a little bit more for really where we were going then in the 2020s, especially so then having to deal also with everything that was pandemic related, and the psychological impact that has had on young people as well, which history will, I think, record far more accurately and far more comprehensively than actually what we currently have. We've got lots of anecdotal, and certainly for those who work in the profession, we are very, very aware of what the impact has been on this current generation. I think there is still future time for the full detail of that to be fully documented and recorded and recognised. We're in the middle of it. We're dealing with it, but there is an impact. It's significant. But that resilience piece and that self-worth piece is central to that. And that's a big part of what we work on here at Abbey Gate College. We've got a real sense of purpose. And in order to talk about purpose for young people, and again, when we're looking at anxiety, the anxious generation, all of the, because that pace of change, that uncertainty about the future, everything that the pandemic did, which also further created fear, it further fueled uncertainty. The resilience piece of that will actually empower all of us, but especially young people, to cope with that, to manage that as well as possible, comes down to that sense of self-worth, self-acceptance, and self-awareness. So you've got to feel comfortable within yourself. If you continue looking over your shoulder, looking for validation from other people, if your school experience is continually pushing you to be something different to what you are, if a school experience is looking to define you by purely, shall we say, academic outcomes, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to do it. That holistic approach of saying, right, and then when I meet with prospective parents, when I talk with prospective pupils who are joining, particularly for the senior school, if they're joining at the age of 10 or 11, then I'll say, look, your starting point is where you are now. You're good enough already. We're going to come alongside. and we're going to be, but you as a starting point, don't come into here and feel daunted. Don't come in and think, oh my gosh, I'm not worthy, or we're looking at our sixth formers and thinking, right, I need to be like them. But it's not about that. We're going to work with you so that you can be actually the it's a bit of a cliche, but the best version of who you are. But we don't work with the cliche of that one. We genuinely commit to saying we're going to work with you with the best version of who you are. Now, where that then goes, from the point of view of how ready young people are, if that works its way through, which it does, and that is supported by some phenomenal relationships that we have within the school between staff and also students, and anyone who visits us sees that firsthand. When people do visit, it's the students who will take any visitors around, so they get a very authentic sense of who we are, what we're like. The relationships that we have with staff, students feel very comfortable with their teachers. They know that it is that there's a deeper level of appropriate connectivity there, which means they feel comfortable if they're having, to have good days, to have not so good days, and to know that actually the staff are there for them, and they can just talk that through, and that's okay. That's okay. We can work with that. We can work with it if you're going to make mistakes, you will do as young people. That's okay. We'll be alongside. Let's talk that one through. So we work very hard and explicitly at the ethos, the surroundings that we have, and the relationships that we have. Going back over my many years, I know what a school can be like if it drives on high expectations, which are underpinned by a sense of rules. Don't do this, don't do that. A sense of fear. Sanction this, sanction that. We're not that approach. We take a much more understanding, a supportive and a compassionate approach to what we do. We still have very, very high standards. It's just a flipped way of getting there. And again, speaking to you with your own coaching background, that a lot of the coaching principles actually underpin how we work as an organisation. I've got coaching in my own training. We've done coaching with quite a lot of our staff actually as well, and coaching principles actually underpin both how we operate as an organisation, as a team, as a staff body, but also how we then work with students and with young people in order to help maximise their own performance and how they go forward. And all of that then sets them up with a really strong foundation for going forward into the workplace, because they're heading into this world of phenomenal, fast-paced change, but with a core. They've got an inner core of self-awareness, self-worth, and self-esteem. And it's never an arrogance, because again, we do an awful lot of work with the students around connectivity and service, and sort of wider responsibility. So we've got three main pillars, which are self-service and sustainability. So I've talked a lot there about the self piece, which is really important. Of course it is. But equally important alongside that is then also that wider connectivity, which again, it underpins a healthier approach to, again, if we use the word well-being, let's take that in the fullness and the depth of what it really means, rather than any surface level cliche. That sense of deeper connectivity with other people, that deeper sense of purpose, that sense of value, and that sense of also how we're connected with the planet and the world we all share. Those are, again, from a psychological point of view, developmental point of view, really important and explicit parts of actually what we are as a school and core values that we have.
I think I coach quite a lot of young business owners, and I see an incredible amount of talent coming out of the education system at the moment. But there is this perception, right or wrong, that today's generation could be entitled or lack work ethic. I mean, how would you? I'd love your opinion on this, Craig. How would you go about addressing that?
I will really defend our young people, and you might expect me to, but I really will. It's to do a job like I do, it is such a privilege. It's the reason to be getting up in the morning. It is such a fire in the belly, really, to be able to work with young people. And I've been doing this now for 3 decades, working with young people. It's a really profound sense of vocation and calling, and I will be a real advocate for young people. Now, I think we've got to be careful not, that there is a tendency for generalizations, and we know that everything will represent, that there's a full range. Like with everything, like in all society, there's the full range of everyone and everything. We know
There's
that.
also a lot of people searching for clicks on social media as well, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of false videos out there going, I don't want to come into work today because it's my birthday or whatever it may be. I see
Yeah.
these videos and it's driving perception, which may not be true. Or
No. Um, Now, the young people that certainly that I work with are in so many ways actually quite inspirational, and I think what has changed, and I think we've got to look at the positives around this one. And again, I guess I could compare with possibly my own generation, and when I talk with peers, we will reflect on how things were. I think there was a bit of an illusion. I mean, I was sort of a teenager, as the school knows from my many assemblies. I was a teenager of the 1980s, and that at that time there was much more a sense of a kind of a predictability to sort of the route that you would go on. Any careers conversations that you would have with talks would be relatively limited in terms of, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could do that. The feel of it was much more, there are fairly linear pathways here, there's a fairly linear way to go and do something. And then, once you've landed in whatever profession that may be in your early 20s, then and kind of that'll be it, then you sort of see it through and you progress, etc., etc. We're in a very, very different context now. It's a very, very different world. We recognise that. We know that any sense, of predictability, forget it. Any sense of linear progression, forget that as well. And I think this is where the pandemic is really important, because if there was any illusion around that for the younger generation, they have learned, they have seen firsthand what random is. They have experienced firsthand what it is to have the day-to-day predictable lifestyle rule sheet just ripped up, thrown out the window, and said, do you know what? Actually, you've lived it, where actually not one of your world leaders had a clue what they were doing. And I'm not saying that critically, no one did. No one could have done. No one knew what was going on. No one knew what they were doing. Everyone had to just make it up as they went along, do the best that they could. Mistakes were made in hindsight, things were done right in hindsight, there were difficulties, there were challenges, there was pain, there was joy. It was a real mixture. This generation have experienced that firsthand. Now, that is, we cannot underestimate that. We cannot underestimate the power of that. For some of them, that's caused real issues, because equally some of that messaging around, the whole isolation. We were saying to these young people explicitly, don't go near people. Don't touch things. Don't be in the same airspace as someone else. Keep away. Lock yourselves in your rooms, in your houses. You can't just pretend that those messages just sort of floated away as soon as vaccinations came out. Those are core memories, and they've had an impact. Now, one of the positive sides of that impact is that, again, if there is a narrative that talks then about a linear progression or a predictable future, something like that, this is a generation that just says, yeah, hang on. No, but it's not, though, is it? It's not. Actually, any assumptions about this nice long life and then heading towards a retirement with a pension, but we've just seen firsthand that actually we can't take anything for granted. We can't make any of those assumptions. We've witnessed firsthand that anything could happen at any time on any day. We know people who died during that. We know how random this can be. We experienced it firsthand. Now, what that does is it actually then drives a greater imperative for actually what you're going to do as an individual. So what I'm seeing with young people is there is actually a far greater fire within them individually to say, right, I need whatever I'm doing needs to align more closely with something that really matters to me and is my passion. That's a good thing. And secondly, I'm not going to hang around necessarily for it because time is precious. So I'm not just going to say, yeah, I'll come to that in about 8 or 9 years' time. I might sort of drift around and do this thing over here first, and I might drift to that one. Then I come back. There's a real sense of we need to do this now because actually I don't know what next year's going to bring. So I need to move on this now. And if there's something I want to do, I need to be clear what it is I want to do. And this world needs some help. We need to do something to make this world a better place. So I see an awful lot more sense of purpose in this generation, a real deeper sense of purpose, a real commitment. And I think for potential employers, and we see it with our 17 and 18-year-olds as they're looking, I am seeing firsthand a significant increase if they're going on to universities or similar, the increase in the number of courses which actually have an explicit element of employability to them, an experience part of it, a sustainability element to it. There's a deeper layer to it. I am seeing a fall off in terms of purely academic studies. There's much more a move towards. But what does it mean? What would be the purpose of that? If I went on to do that, what is the purpose of that, both for me as an individual, but also for the wider world? And we've also got an increasing number of students who are saying, I'm looking at these other options because there are some phenomenal apprenticeships out there, some phenomenal degree apprenticeships, some direct going into work. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go this route here because I can engage with something meaningful for me, and I can do it now, and I can be learning that real life experience, real world on the job, and I can be doing that now. Now, that kind of fire and that deeper sense of passion, that I see that firsthand, and that is a shift. That is a shift, but I see that as being a positive shift. I do.
I agree, and I think that there's a point here, which is it's never been more important for a business to have a really strong purpose, a really strong vision.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about Chester Zoo, and I'm thinking about their purpose is to eradicate extinction. It's pretty powerful stuff, right? And if you're looking for someone to come and work for you, they have to feel that passion about what they're doing. They have to be engaged with your purpose. So it's never been more important for a business to have a really strong purpose and vision, and so that your team members can get behind that and believe in what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Really interesting. Really good point. Thank you so much for that one, Craig. And I think there's a big takeaway for a lot of business owners there. But what opportunities do students have to gain real world business experience, such as placements or partnerships with local companies? Is that something you do?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a strong careers program through our own school network, through another organisation as well, a local organisation that works with us to support that. I think the biggest element we've got things like careers fairs. We've got regular people who will come in from a whole diversity of professional backgrounds, businesses, things that they have done, and we'll do sort of mini masterclasses. We'll do little presentations with students. We've got things like the Young Enterprise program as well, which always does really, really well every single year. But I think the biggest thing we do is we've got work experience placements. So in year 10, so that's the year before they take the GCSEs, we've just had it. So our year 10s have just had a full week of work experience, and they've all been out. And then we do one also in year 12, which is the first year of the sixth form. So for our students, they have two weeks there separately where they have that direct work experience. And the feedback, I mean, I've actually, because we've just done that year 10 work experience, And as we always do, we get the feedback from the employees, and it's a huge diversity of places where students go. Just to give you a flavour, actually, and it does link back to the previous question as well in terms of this generation. If I just read, and I've not edited or changed any of these, this is just to give a sense as to what some of these employers have said about our students who've been with them. Totally amazing, such a great addition to the team. Another one, very punctual to all meetings we organised for him. Clear he's a highly intelligent young man, got out of the place with what he wanted. I'd recruit him tomorrow if he needed a role. He'd fit right in here, and that was with the Bank of America. Very impressed by the manner in which he's conducted herself, confident in speaking to adults and children alike. A pleasure having her here this week. Does everything with a smile. Really nice to see a well-mannered young man. Doing really well. Most confident young person I've ever spoken to. Brilliant. He's been really mature, conducted himself really well. Been amazing this week. Helping out in the shop, sorting things out in the back, face-to-face contact with customers, highly praised by the staff. They've been really good. Joined in with activities, been super helpful. Built a lovely relationship with both the children and the staff, happy to muck in with the children and all jobs. Polite, helpful, and enthusiastic. Great, intuitive, asking lots of questions. I'd like to have him back and spend longer with this impressive young man. Always well presented, take up the challenges we've put to him as part of our work experience plan. And that's just a selection. But it gives, it partly answers your previous question as well. It gives a sense as to this generation and what they can bring. But we've had amazing feedback on our current year 10s, and that's just from last week. That's straight happened, hot off the press.
How wonderful. And how must you feel getting feedback like that? There must be a sense of pride and...
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm thrilled to bits. I'm thrilled to bits for our students, and we've shared that with them. They're a credit to themselves.
It's also a good example of how you engage with local businesses and the community, and the benefits that companies gain from working with your students. How can our business community get more involved, Craig?
I think we continue the work that we are doing. We sort of made connectivity through the Chester Business Club, and that's something that Abbey Gate College is looking to just be alongside, and any connections that mutually can be of benefit there. And we went to again one of the monthly events yesterday. It's about those conversations, and really, if anyone is interested, and we've got quite a few people who, on the back of the event that we hosted in January, are reaching out to us and we're having conversations with, again, just to look at mutual opportunities that will both work for our young people as well also for the business. And we are very keen just to keep those conversations going. Everything that we're doing in terms of that connectivity with the real world, because again, that takes us right back still to that deeper sense of purpose, that well-being, that sense of connectivity with everything. Anything that we can do, we're all for that. So we are very much open to conversations to say, if our amazing young people can be of service to your business in any way, shape or form, then let's talk. As I say, we've got these work experience placement periods, as well as anything that actually, because students do things obviously outside of school time as well, and we can do things on a more bespoke arrangement. But equally, we are also reaching out and looking to connect as widely as we can. If people want to come in and then just talk to students and just open their eyes to, again, what professional journeys can look like, what the possibilities are, again, we are welcoming that with open arms.
Okay, I think that's an invitation right there, isn't it, Craig?
Absolutely.
Hopefully you don't get too swamped and there's a queue at the door looking for future talent, because going back to the point that we made earlier, the difference between an average business and an exceptional business is the people that you employ, it's the teams that you build around you, it's the talent that you got. And I think the biggest takeaway for me from this podcast is how important the vision, the mission, the purpose of a business is. and to build something that people can engage with and get really interested in. That's been a massive takeaway for me, Craig, and something that I'll definitely include in my coaching with my clients. So I'd really like to thank you for that. For business owners who do want to connect with future talent, you've mentioned the work experience programs that you offer. I mean, what else could we do to get our businesses ready to attract the right talent, and how can the school help with that? Maybe that's a difficult question to answer right now, but
I think it is. I think the more that we are just genuinely and authentically talking with each other, understanding each other, and I think that's an important point. I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying previously. Again, we're surrounded by so many perspectives, opinions, information, and not entirely accurate information as well. The way to sort of to navigate our way through that is the more genuine conversations and getting to know each other, the more listening and hearing that we can do with each other as human beings within our communities, the better. So personally, I would just advocate for that and say the more that we can talk to each other, if anyone is interested, then get in touch. And similarly, we're looking to connect, to continue connecting as widely and as healthily as we can. The more we understand each other, from our point of view, what this generation is looking like as they're coming forward, and what they can offer, and what they could bring to the future, and equally where businesses are currently, where they're looking to go, how they could also evolve, so that it's part of the same journey, because that's really what we need. Then the more we can listen and talk to each other and hear and understand, to my mind, the better.
Thank you. And I think that's a really, really strong note to finish the podcast on, Craig. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I'd love to come along for a coffee. I'd love to see this door from the 1400s.
Always welcome.
And I'd love to see the building. I mean, it must be so close to the road, but we can't see it. So, I definitely want to come along and have a coffee and have another chat with you.
Absolutely welcome. Anytime. We'll be in touch.
And thank you for being on.
Thank you very much indeed, Alan. All the very best.
You're welcome.